Hey, Jason, great to have you on. We're going to talk about quality reports. What the hell are quality reports and how do they help me as a developer to get faster?
So it's good to be on. Quality reports are going to be things like the report showing the success of your unit tests or other automated tests. It's going to be things like your code coverage reports. It's going to be sometimes reports about the security of your dependencies. What else? Things like linting and how your code quality is looking. They're going to cover a wide range of different baseline metrics about your application.
Okay, that makes sense. And how do they help me to become faster as a developer? I don't really yet understand what that means.
So for the developer themselves, it depends a little bit upon what you're trying to do. One of my favorite use of them is for a developer is with the code coverage reports. They let you pull up and look at your source code line by line and see where your unit tests are actually exercising the code and maybe where you've missed different conditions. Maybe you need to get 100% code coverage, maybe not, but you can narrow in on where you need to do a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think that's really helpful from a developer's perspective, and I can actually see that giving me a lot of inputs as well during code reviews, right? If I can see what kind of additional, kind of checks have been already done on the code that I'm reviewing, actually, right?
Exactly, and especially during code review, it helped when you can access those quality reports. They help to highlight and make it easier to see what kind of, if there's issues or things you've missed with your linting rules or code quality. Nor maybe they let you dig in a little bit more into what the unit tests are, how they're behaving. They can give you some of those extra insights.
Cool. Sounds very interesting. That's stuff that I think I've seen in GitHub already kind of being integrated, right? I've also seen that in pull requests in Bitbucket. But I've been doing a lot of CodeCatalyst things in the last few months, right? And the area of quality reports is something I didn't yet touch. So I read a blog post that you wrote a few weeks ago, and then I thought I'm gonna get this guy on to help me understand why quality reports in CodeCatalyst are going to help me. And I would suggest, if you don't mind, let's just directly jump into it. So
absolutely.
Let's have a look on how the quality reports are visible in CodeCatalyst. Maybe let's do a little bit of a deep dive. And
sure.
Now let's hope, as always, that screen share works. It's always fascinating to try.
Let's see.
Okay, at least on my side, that looks like a familiar interface called CodeCatalyst.
All right.
All right, let's go.
Excellent. All right. So quality reports in CodeCatalyst are something that really interested me. They're exposed a lot better than they are in other tools. Most of the time when I'm working in something like GitHub or Bitbucket, if I want to see those results, I either have to run the commands locally or I have to go and dig through the CI/CD output in order to see how things are behaving. But right here, I can come straight into this pull request and pull up reports.
I'm gonna stop you. I don't know what the hell. Where are you? What is this? So let's go one step back and maybe start on.
Yes.
We went into CodeCatalyst.
Let me start over here.
Yeah, let's do the small version for me.
Yes. So within this page, this is just the home of this sample project. And I guess overview is probably the right word to use. But down here, I've got a pull request that I opened up. Did a little bit of work yesterday evening.
Cool, but wait a second. I've never used that part of the overview section of the project, so I didn't really know how you got there. I usually go through code on the left-hand side and then touch on pull requests, right? That's the other way, right?
I didn't find this part of the overview page until last night, actually.
Amazing.
Having to expand out the menu is something that, it's fine, but I wish I hadn't done or didn't have to do all the time. But it turns out there's actually an open pull requests interface down here.
And in the,
I've only got one repo, but I imagine it's going to show them for all the different repositories.
I hope so, but in this very moment, this recording was already worth it because CodeCatalyst team might be watching this and seeing Jason and Johannes didn't see this down there, so we might need to overwork on this overview page, right? To kind of highlight that, right?
I would love it if they switch this workflow runs and open pull requests, because at least for me, when I'm pulling up a repository, pull requests are normally my first stop these days.
Jason, I would love to have widgets that I can sort in the way that I want them to be, so I can make that my homepage for a project, right? But don't tell anyone.
That would be amazing.
Cool. Let's go back. So we went into the pull request. So in this very moment, we have someone, in this case it's you, that has written some code on a branch and has already requested a review for it, right? So we can see that in the upper part where the POC PR code coverage is the source branch and the main is the target branch, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So now we can keep going.
Yes.
And maybe start looking at the changes that we have. And I guess...
Right. So this sample project is a very basic to-do list application. And for proof of concept purposes, I hadn't added a delete button, so I decided to add one. And I'm just going to minimize the couple of these files. They have some changes that are a little less interesting to look at. But in here we can see...
How do you like the tree on the left-hand side?
I like it. It's something that I've gotten used to from GitHub. I wish things were expanded out by default. But I really like having that. Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. I'm just asking.
No. Absolutely. And so... there's a bunch of small changes here to actually add in a delete button. So it I guess it's a git diff, so you can see the difference in changes. One thing I noticed while getting this ready is you can actually see code coverage in here in these changes. So right now it's turned on, and I can come down here and there's a red line and then these icons over here, and we can actually see which lines I don't have code coverage for, or where I don't have automated testing.
Cool. Yeah, that's insightful. Didn't see that yet. Maybe it would be, maybe we need to expand, make that a little bit more visible, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's turned on by default, so that's a nice little benefit, but yeah, it's pretty subtle unless you know to look for it.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty new. It's kind of a new feature as well.
Gotcha. And here's an example of this line is only partially covered.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of I'd call it like a yellow-green line and then just a different icon.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a lot easier during a code review to see what line, maybe someone missed adding a unit test. That happens all the time. You get too busy in the feature, you move on to something else, and you don't write all the unit tests you're supposed to. This would make it a lot easier to spot that during code review instead of having to run those checks locally and pull them up elsewhere. So this is already something I think can really help speed up a pull request.
Mm-hmm.
But over here, in addition to these changes, we have the reports. And in this case, I've got 3 reports that are set up on this within this project.
Okay, so these are now reports that have been run and executed as part of a workflow on this branch, right?
Absolutely. And right now, most of this is using I guess it's the automatic detection. So I've done very little configuration to actually make these reports get detected. Mm-hmm. It's mostly telling CodeCatalyst where to look.
Okay.
And we've got 3 different types of reports over here. There's this test report, and I'll just go ahead and pull this up, that shows the status of all of my different test suites and the different test cases. You can come through and see their durations. I imagine messages probably are mostly when things fail.
Uh, Can I see as well the
Mhm.
lines covered by the different tests as an example?
Not in this report.
What happens if
I
you
don't think
click on
so.
that link? Ah, okay,
Yeah.
that pulls up
Wow.
that's interesting as well, right? Because it shows the console log of the actual test, right?
It looks like this might be for a large section of the workflow run
Yeah.
because I have some of the other commands running here, so looks like it covers a little bit of
Yeah,
everything.
if you go back to the overview of the reports for a second, you will see. No, just go back
Over.
2 pages. Back to
Uh,
reports.
oh, okay. Let me just use the back button.
Yep,
Oh, one too far. Here we are.
this one, right? So over here, I think you see that the workflow has been executed and the specific action has also generated those tests. This means that if you look at the log files, you will always get the log file of that action in the workflow, I would guess.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So the test report at the end gives me the idea how many unit tests have been successful and how many have been failing,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely. And you can dig, if you need to dig into why your unit testing is taking so long, that duration can be helpful to find those slow tests.
Makes sense?
So, moving on from testing is that code coverage. And we've already talked a little about that. But pulling up this report, you actually get a lot more of the statistics, or I guess the numbers and percentages on how you're doing for code coverage. So expanding this out, we can see the different files that we have testing in, and let's see, clicking into a file, we can see where the how the test coverage actually looks. This green are lines that are being executed, and all the different logical branches are being executed. The yellow is where only some of the different potential like branching paths are being executed, and the red is where that line is not being executed.
Okay.
Let's see. And one thing I don't have configured for any of these reports, but especially with code coverage, I know some people like to have hard requirements on what their code coverage percentages are. You can configure that and set up success criteria, and then that's actually going to give this report a status where you're either passing or failing.
Okay. And that's also,
You can
yeah.
do that. Or, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, and that's also why we have no status on the overview page for the reports, right? Because we have not configured that.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And there's a similar thing with the test as well, where we don't have a status. Right now, the my unit tests, if any of them fail, the build run will fail, so I don't actually get those reports. But I could switch that and actually use CodeCatalyst's quality reports to control whether or not that build is passing based on the results of this report.
Cool.
I I have mixed feelings on that, but that's something I haven't messed with.
I personally think that it's worth it to have that and also to activate that because it ensures that you get more quality into the pull request. Actually, as a reviewer, I would never look at a pull request where we have unit tests that failed, and I would always not look at the pull request where the line coverage has decreased, right? In a coverage perspective. So that's where I think that could help.
And you actually touched on something right there that I don't think is showing up in the interface right now. I'm jumping a little bit around, but the you said the line coverage decreasing. I don't think, at least I haven't seen in Code Catalyst anywhere where it actually shows your coverage percentage relative to, for example, in this case, my main branch. That would be being able to see that difference and see what the change looks like in coverage would be, I think, a significant improvement.
that's something that other vendors like CodeCatalyst, as an example, are already doing, right? And you would be able to integrate that as well into the workflows, as far as I know. But then once again, it takes you out of the current interface, right? So, but there would be possibilities to do that. I understand your idea of having that available directly, kind of. And another question: how do you feel about the unit test and the coverage being two different reports? So for me, kind of naturally, they would belong together. How do you feel about that?
I think a unified report would be nice. It makes sense that they're different file formats, so I can see why they show up as separate reports. But I think some way to build these reports together into a single page would be, I think that would be phenomenal. Even if you could separate out the code coverage by unit test. But I imagine that's going to depend a lot more on your testing tools than it would on CodeCatalyst.
Yeah, I would even go one step further, right? So I have a video that talks about queue integration in CodeCatalyst, right? Now, let Q analyze the reports for me and give me a hint whether this pull request is good to go, yes or no, right?
That'd be good.
But anyway, let's focus on quality reports on this video.
Yes.
So tell me about ESLint and the static analysis that you're doing with that in your example workflow.
Absolutely. So ESLint specifically is a tool within the JavaScript and TypeScript ecosystem, for anyone who's not familiar with it, that does linting and static analysis. It'll show you whether you have good code practices. It can do some things with formatting. So that's one example of a static analysis type report that is supported. So pulling this up, it looks like I've been doing a fairly good job, only 2 medium findings. I've got some bad practices with React hooks in here that are being called out.
Cool. Does this also give you the possibility to do dependency analysis and kind of verifying that the dependencies do not have any security vulnerabilities as well?
Yes, you can. There's technically 2 categories that kind of both closely of quality report that closely align with static analysis, and but one of them, it does support formats that you can do that kind of dependency analysis and whether or not there are any security issues open with those dependencies. I've had a little bit of trouble getting that to show up. I think CodeCatalyst, it seems like, is very standards compliant with the file formats that it accepts. And the tools that I found to help get some of the security reports that I have easy access to into that format don't match the specification as strictly, and so they don't show up very well.
Okay. Yeah. Then that's maybe something that would need to be improved as well, right?
Right. I thought about trying to modify that project, but there's always more projects than we have time for, right?
That's correct. And our aim was to look at initially at how this can speed up code reviews as well, right? So,
absolutely.
Have you been able to look at if there are other types of quality reports that can be integrated in CodeCatalyst today?
There's that 4th category that some of those more dependency the dependency analysis security type of reports fall into, and it's the format that is used for that. I believe it's Serif reports, SARIF, I think. Mm-hmm. That format, I think, is generic enough that it could actually be used for a wide variety of reports. So someone could actually build their own reports based on what is important to them. I assume it's not something I've attempted, but the file format doesn't look too bad.
Okay, cool. That means that I could build in my own type of reporting as well into potentially a custom action or something like that, to then have my own quality verifications included in addition to the standard formats. So that sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. What else? What do we miss? What's your take on other types of quality reports included in CodeCatalyst? What would you like to see?
What would I like to see? I think one, I like that all of the reports are tied to the pull requests, and that you could also, you could go into the individual workflow runs and find them, and you can also come down here to the reports and see a list of all the reports. I wish some of it. I kind of wish there was a few maybe fewer clicks to get to those reports.
Mm-hmm.
I think over here these pull request details,
Mm-hmm.
and I care a lot more about the quality reports than I do what my feasible merge strategies are. So maybe something that showed my reports, and if I had them configured for a status, that way, as a reviewer, I can pull up the pull request, and if I see that the code coverage numbers are horrible, or that ESLint has a lot of errors, I know right then and there, and I can just leave a comment says, telling someone to look at their quality reports, and I don't have to spend a lot of time on that pull request right then.
Okay, cool. Anything else right now on quality reports that you believe would help CodeCatalyst to become better?
Oh, no, not really. This is the best integration with quality reports I've seen out of the box. The automatic detection really impressed me, and I was really glad to see that ESLint or ESLint's JSON format was just an automatically supported format.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already impressed.
Cool. That sounds great. So I would add the possibility of additional notifications based on reports failing. I think that doesn't exist today. That would be something I would like to see. Then what I'm missing is, well, we have Q, and as I already said, right, we need to make use of the Gen AI, right? So this means if, as an example, Jason has submitted 5 pull requests in the last 10 days, and Johannes has always told him, fix your unit tests, right? Then next time, I don't want to tell you again. I want Q to tell you, Jason, before you submit this, please verify your unit tests have been successful. And that's what I would love to see from a Q perspective, and kind of putting Gen AI at hand of the developer to take faster decisions. At least that's kind of one of my things that I would like to see.
That would be really interesting. It'd also be interesting if Q can start looking at the results of these quality reports across all the different pull requests and the history of the repository. So maybe there's consistent issues in pull requests of, I don't know, certain bad practices with React being followed. It'd be great if Q could, if that's a trend, surface that somehow.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. And I think that CodeCatalyst has the power to do that, because, as you pointed out, maybe we can go to the reports section for a second. We will see all of the reports in this project over there, and also when they have been executed. So the history exists, right? So they have the possibility to understand and to compare what happened in the past. I think that's something that we could potentially make available here as well. And I'm eager to see, now that we are in the reports section, here we have reports and then quality reports. It's been over 14 months that I've been waiting for operational reports around the project, and the number of code lines and these kind of things reported, right? So it's not quality reports, but as we are on this tab, I think that's also something that would help me to understand a little bit better in terms of how many lines has Johannes contributed in the last 30 days? How many lines has Johannes contributed in the last 24 hours, whatever, right? Or maybe also which parts of the source code have been adjusted or attached. Cool, and I would like to invite you.
It'd also be interesting.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. It would also be interesting with, since CodeCatalyst has issues, is if people are running sprints in here, additional reports around that sort of how their sprints are performing. I don't think sprints are a formal concept in CodeCatalyst, so there'd be some other work there, but some of those reports around issues as well would be interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's the integration that we actually miss as well, right? A little bit more closer between the different parts of the CodeCatalyst, right? Making sure that they interact with each other more than they do today. And now I forgot
Absolutely.
what I wanted to say. I remembered. I wanted to invite you to do something. So one of the major announcements of 2023's reInvent last year was the custom blueprints in CodeCatalyst. What I did not try out is, can I configure, use, and access information from quality reports in custom blueprints? Because this would be an interesting thing. So can I pre-configure all of the thresholds, all of the settings in my workflows automatically in order to then ensure that, let's say, I'm the one personally, the central person in enterprise building that workflow, but I want to dictate that the quality level is 90% code coverage, and then this changes to 85. Can I apply this automatically to all of my workflows in all of my projects across the whole enterprise without manually touching each of the projects and configuration files? This would be something to try out with custom blueprints. And so if you're interested to have a look, I can give you a head start on that, Jason, and then you can become our CodeCatalyst quality reports expert, which I was looking for. Jason, thank you so much.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
Give it a try.
Absolutely.
And you know that you have the same first name as a person that is very famous, at least for me. He leads up a program that you're part of, just to give you a hint.
Oh, yes. Jason from the Community Builders program.
Yeah, that's true. And that's how we met, actually, right? So you're an AWS community builder as well. That means you're part of that group that I've been part of as well in the past. So maybe tell us a bit, how do you enjoy being part of the program? What do you do as part of the program? And also then maybe how and where can people find a little bit more about the work that you do for the community online?
Absolutely. So I was accepted into the Community Builder program about this time last year in 2023, and it's been fantastic to be a part of. I've been able to interact with builders from around the world. I've been able to interact more with different AWS teams than I ever have before. We have fairly regularly, there are webinars and calls where we're learning more about different AWS services, providing feedback directly to some of the different service teams, sometimes learning some new features or functionality that are going to be released soon. It's a phenomenal program to be a part of. And I believe right now, I think registration is still, or
no,
maybe applications are still open.
Not anymore. They closed out last
they
week
closed
already. So everyone that is now interested to join will need to wait for about 11 months until they can apply again, which is going to be in January and 2025. At least that's what I know.
And there's a community builder page on the AWS website, and keep an eye on that and start looking at it. I guess that'd be just end of this year and into next year.
Yeah, and this kind of
put it on your calendars.
I would advise so as well. Where can people find more about the community work that you do and more about you online?
So learning more about me online, I would say one of the best places to start at my own website. It's just my name, Jason Butz, BUTZ.info. And that'll have links to other places where you can learn more about me. And within the Community Builders program, there's an organization on dev.to, and so you can find things I've written there. You can find them on my website. There's I believe it's the community.aws website as well. So there's a lot of places you can find more about what I've done, what I've written, and more from other community builders.
Yeah, and I think I can link all of that as well in the show notes later. So in summary, we started off with can quality reports at a glance help you to speed up your code reviews? What would be your main takeaway, Jason?
I absolutely think they can help speed up your code reviews. You may need to do a little bit of tweaking to make sure that you set the parameters of those reports to what your expectations are, but they can provide a very quick indicator of, yes, I should spend my time looking through this code, making sure that everything is good, or a very quick, no, this developer needs to put in a little bit more effort before I spend my time in a code review. So it's not going to do the code review for you, but it can help you quickly decide when you need to put your effort into it.
Cool. Thank you so much for this great summary, Jason. This was great fun, and I learned a lot about the quality reports in CodeCatalyst. As I said, I've not been really looking into them. So thanks a lot, and yeah, talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Johannes.